The problem with video is that we make all of our good goat jokes before we start broadcasting.
I think that wasn't a problem, really. We were okay.
No, it's not a problem at all. Actually, the benefit to the video is that... Yeah, here we go.
Australians, have you ever wondered what a nickel is? Apparently it's 5 cents. So give it to Tom at patreon.com/acedetect.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, March 11th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Eck from Hockeybuzz.com is back. How you doing, Eklund?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. We've got some interesting partnerships between Samsung and NHL to talk about, which is going to lead us down the merry road of digital blackouts and some such things. You've been having such a pleasant time calling the major sports networks, haven't you?
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, I've got stories. We're
going to get to that in a little bit. But first, we have some very important news to lead off the headlines. iTunes is down. I explained on the morning stream this morning that I don't really like to cover outages because they happen all the time, and usually they're resolved by the time you hear the show. So this may already be resolved. But the reason I will cover this iTunes outage is that Apple uncharacteristically told someone, in this case CNBC, that the cause was an internal DNS error. So yeah, somebody pushed the wrong DNS into the wrong code commit, probably, or something. Not a code commit.
It's great timing. It's not like anyone's talking about them right now, Apple or anything like that. So.
No, exactly. Recode reports that one U.S. FCC official says the new open internet rules are expected to be made public tomorrow, after which people can stop saying, we haven't seen the rules yet, and move on to arguing about what the rules will actually mean in practice. Looking forward to that myself. Along with lifting NDAs on Google's Pixel laptop reviews, Google also launched an online store to feature its hardware at store.google.com. So if you're looking for official Nexus versions of phones and tablets and their watches and Android TV, that's where you're going to find them now. TechCrunch notes this means devices will no longer be a section in the Google Play Store, which will focus on apps and media.
I got to play with the first Pixel 1 the other day, and I really liked it a lot. I mean, so I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm a big, for the podcast I do, for my guests who have trouble, some of the older hockey writers who don't really know Google, doing a Google Hangouts a confusing thing for them or whatever, I usually just send them, I'll send them a Google Chromebook, and it's perfect.
Yeah, so they just launch it, open a link, and they're on their way.
Yeah, and then they end up using it as their laptop. They love it. But so I think that I'm looking forward to this.
$1,000. I know it's meant to be an aspirational / demonstrational laptop. Is a little pricey, but for Chrome OS, really. But the laptop itself is a fine piece of material, I think. And if you're in London, you could put your hands on one. The Telegraph notes Google has opened a physical store of sorts. It's actually inside Curry's PC World on London's Tottenham Court Road. The Google Shop, as it will be called, will have all its devices. They'll have tutorials and demonstrations, feature lovely blonde hardwood tables, which all self-respecting electronics retail stores must have these days. The shop within a shop, as they call it, should also come to Curry's PC Worlds in Fulham, West London, and Thurrock, Essex, eventually as well.
You know what's kind of funny about this to me is that Google is such the hipster, and of course that they would open their first little shop in London somewhere. Like, this is just the hipster thing to do. If you're a hipster company, you open in a little London
in Tottenham Court Road. They didn't open it in the East End,
it's
right?
Completely hipster.
And our hat trick of Google news comes thanks to PC Mag. Google Nearline is a beta cloud storage offering for 1 cent per gigabyte with a promised response time of 3 seconds. Now you're like, wait, why would 3 seconds? It's meant as a soft replacement for cold storage of data that still gives you reasonably fast access when an unexpected need arises. It'll have redundant locations, OAuth features, be fully integrated with other Google Cloud Storage options as well. So very compelling as a cold storage alternative in the cloud.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I like the hat trick reference. Nice hockey reference. Very good.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't going to call it out, but that was for
sorry.
you. TechCrunch. No, that's okay. TechCrunch passes along the Wall Street Journal report that Apple will add the Force Touch feature of the new MacBook to the next version of the iPhone, according to sources. Force Touch is that thing that they showed off in the new MacBook that senses how hard you're touching, hence the name, which can be used as a contextual menu selection, provide finer control of things like drawing applications or games. One possible application they've talked about is a piano game. Where you can have a piano key on a touch screen and be able to tell how hard you're pressing the keys.
Well, that's the first thing that occurred to me, because as a musician who's had several keyboards, touch sensitivity is a really hard thing to get right, honestly. Like the difference between what feels, and it's different for everybody. It's like everybody likes, some people like harder pianos to play, some people like pianos with a softer feel. So that's what I want to see. How many people say this is the right kind of sensitivity? I know they say it's adjustable, I've heard too, which is good. So perhaps in software, somewhere down the line we'll be able to adjust it. But it really makes, I like that it's going to be in the iPhone, but it doesn't really make more sense on a big iPad, like an iPad Pro, to have this function where you can paint on it and draw on it. That's where I think it would really work.
Yeah, Daryl Etherington makes that point in the TechCrunch article about this as well, which is totally worth reading. He's like, you should expect them to put this in all their devices if they're going to put it in the iPhone, because why not?
Yeah.
And yeah, it does make sense, especially now that they have the taptic feedback. That's part of the it's not a haptic feedback, but it's a way of telling you, yes, you've clicked, even though you won't feel the actual physical depression, because the touchpad on the MacBook doesn't move that much. And Etherington makes the same point there. He's like, they should do that for a keyboard, because that feels more like a keyboard than haptic feedback does.
Oh, yeah. And if you're going to do a piano, an iPad makes more sense than an iPhone anyway. Obviously, bigger, you could do really cool things with this.
Yeah. Facebook has removed the feeling fat emoticon option after 16,000 people signed an online petition at change.org, reports The Verge. Feeling fat was a recent addition to a list that Facebook users can use to add to their status. It's very much like LiveJournal. In other words, you put a mood out there. Petitioners argued that fat is not a feeling and that the emoticon encouraged negative body image association, especially among girls. While feeling fat is gone, a feeling stuffed status can still be chosen, and it has the same emoticon that feeling fat had before.
And it's also as the questioning how much time I have on my hands has been added as well. This feels to me like people complain. I mean, I do agree, and I'm all for it. I don't want to diminish anything about eating disorders or anything like that, but this is kind of I don't know. It feels a little bit over the top to me.
The Verge passes on the news from the Wall Street Journal that Sony's internet TV service PlayStation Vue will launch in New York City, Chicago, and Philadelphia in the next 2 weeks. Selected users have been testing the service in those cities for a few months. PS Vue, not to be confused with PS2, will deliver around 75 broadcast and cable channels, so things like CBS and Fox and NBC, but also Comedy Central, FX, and Discovery. Users can watch live or store recorded shows for 28 days. Still no word on how much this thing is going to cost. The goal is to roll out Vue nationwide by the end of 2015. It's coming to you, Ek.
It is, and this is like the one device I think of all technology I don't own in my house.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is this enough to push you towards wanting a PS4?
I don't think so, because I'm really happy with Sling TV now, and that's on everything. But yeah, and we're not that big of gamers, and the games we play are more kind of retro games. We do a lot of old Nintendo games and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm glad it's coming. It's just another push in the right direction, you know.
Yeah, and it's not going to be limited to the PS4, they say. We'll see what it launches with. And I want to see how much it's going to cost, too, because that makes a big difference. The estimates have been $50 to $80, but 50 is a lot different than 80 when you're talking about replacing cable.
For sure.
Oh, did you say you wanted more on-demand video services? You didn't? Well, too bad. Recode reports that Verizon announced a programming deal with DreamWorks Animation's Awesomeness TV unit to provide more than 200 hours of new shows across 2 channels, one Awesomeness for teens and one DreamWorks. Oops, that was a bad mistake. DreamWorks for families. The DreamWorks people hate me now. The DreamWorks for Families channel featuring DreamWorks' most recognizable characters, so Shrek. According to Verizon CEO Fran Shammo, the service is aimed at people who want to watch video via a wireless connection, which likely means phones and tablets. No word on cost for this one yet, but it is expected to launch this summer. This one I'm feeling less confident about. This is Verizon. They bought Intel's OnQ service, and it sounds like they're going to try to roll it out over LTE.
This feels like someone at Verizon said, "Hey, we got to get in on that thing." That's what it feels like, and it feels like so when they went and they said, "Oh, this company has one, we'll go get theirs," and that's what it feels like, and that's why I'm agreeing with you. It doesn't. You really have to, as we'll talk about later with the NHL. It's really important who's leading these challenges.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I'm not sure if this is just a choice.
Speaking of the NHL, Verizon has a deal with the NHL where I can get video because I have Verizon service. So if it works like that, where I can get this video like as part of my subscription for a greatly reduced rate, or maybe included with my subscription on a limited basis, that could become compelling. But if it's like, hey, it's $50 a month, but you can only watch it on a phone and a tablet, forget it. I'm not going to be into that. Time now for some news from you. These come from our subreddit, as do many of our stories, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Go there and sign up. Do some voting if you don't do anything else. Let us know what stories you see there that you would like us to talk about. habichuelacondulce sent us the Engadget version of a Wall Street Journal story that the U.S. Justice Department is using the Cessna-mounted electronic sniffer boxes called dirt boxes. These are the boxes we've talked about on the show that mimic the behavior of cell towers, intercepting ID and registration information from up in the air. A $100 million flying man-in-the-middle attack is essentially what they are. The technology developed for use in the Middle East has been repurposed by the U.S. Marshals Service now with the help of the CIA and Boeing. Both the EFF and ACLU have filed Freedom of Information Act requests regarding the program, plus requests for additional information about the acquisition, possession, and use of cell site simulators.
It's a scary, very scary story. Although 100 million flying man in the middle attack would be a great musical. That would be a great Broadway musical.
It's a modern-day Flying Burrito Brothers.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. 100 million flying.
Zuntax alerted us to a Verge story on the end of PlayStation Mobile's platform. Going to pour a little out for it. I barely remembered it existed, actually. PlayStation Mobile was Sony's store for indie games and classic PlayStation games for the PS Vita and selected Android phones. No new content will be published after July 15th, and by September 10th, you'll no longer be able to re-download games you already own. So get them downloaded while you can.
I mean, I know this device is sort of out of the Vita's sort of out of. But didn't Nintendo just do something like this in a similar way? Didn't they just stop a program as well? I get the sense
they closed one of their stores as well. The thing is, there is already a PlayStation store for Vita, so this is actually getting rid of some confusion because I think a lot of people didn't understand. Like, well, there's this PlayStation Mobile store, but that also works on phones and it's got Android games. But then there's the PlayStation store, and I think what Sony's doing is saying, look, we're doing a better job of getting indie developers into the regular PlayStation store. We don't need to. Let's get rid of it. Captain Kipper sent us the best news ever. It's not the Singularity, but it's close. According to Engadget, at one of their regular hack days, a group of Netflix engineers created a version of the Netflix app that runs on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. So, of course, they played the House of Cards intro on it. The app can scroll between film and television shows, load synopses and images, and playback media. The Verge asked the most pertinent question, what modem did they use? I hope the Verge gets an answer. Keep checking back.
Wow. That's awesome.
And Goofball Jones wanted us to note a column from David Post at the Washington Post about the pressure being put on ICANN to fight copyright infringement through its issuance of domain names, or its administration of the domain name system anyway. Post notes prohibiting end users from copyright infringement is in ICANN's contracts with registrars, but Post asks if a domain name administrator should be enforcing intellectual property law. Definitely worth a read. Check it out. We'll have a link in the show notes or find it at WashingtonPost.com. And that is a look at the headlines. All right, so the news today is that NHL's app on Samsung devices is going to have some extra features, kind of like what I was talking about with getting that Verizon look-in service. Basically, the Verizon thing just takes me to the latest games as interesting things are happening. What Samsung devices are going to get is inside the NHL Situation Room. So if I understand this right, Eck, when referees are asked, I think it's in Toronto, to make a call on instant replay, you'll get a video after they make the call showing how they came to the decision?
Yeah, the Situation Room, I've been to the Situation Room in Toronto. It's fascinating. It's literally like you'd imagine a normal TV room to look, a normal TV production room. And in there they have several people, I think it's up to 12, watching every game from every angle. And they're writing down all sorts of things. They're writing down, this guy made a violent hit even though he didn't get a penalty, they'll remember that for the future if he's ever suspended. There's a whole bunch of things that are written down, but the main thing that fans deal with is disallowed or allowed goals. If a puck was hit with a high stick, kicked in, that kind of thing, then it goes to Toronto, to the Situation Room, where they determine whether or not it's legal. And there used to be that they would have these rooms, they would have a replay room in the actual arenas themselves, and of course there was all sorts of feelings that was not fair because maybe that person who's making the decision is a local person, and so they wanted they centralized it to this one Situation Room in Toronto where all the decisions are made. And it is a really cool, and there are some really cool YouTube videos if you look at of reporters that have gone up there and done stories about it. So yeah, the idea of this is you'll get a little inside peek as to how they made the decisions, which is very cool because it's very much like the NFL football where instant replay, where someone comes out and tries to explain what happened, and you sort of now the NFL's gone to hiring instant replay specialists to explain what the referee is saying and seeing and all that. This is sort of that. And in the NHL, I think it's fun. My question is, I'm not a huge fan of when these things become only for one device or another device because people are already, there's a lot of backlash, I find. And as much as Samsung might want this to be something that gives them, makes them more higher prestigious among NHL fans, there's actually more backlash about Samsung's keeping this thing from us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, there's some other stuff they're doing which goes along with a Samsung sponsorship of the NHL that makes sense to me. You can get special wallpaper or covers,
right.
Countdown clock to the game time. Those things are fine. But when you take content like this, which is, if you don't follow sports, it's fast becoming sort of an essential part of the game.
Yeah.
And you wall it off. It really is this trend over sports leagues in general to wall off their content. The most extreme example being having local blackouts digitally. And again, if you don't follow sports, what's going on here is from 2001, we've had the ability to stream games online. There's no technological boundary here. It's only gotten better and better over time. But what you don't have in Major League Baseball, and tell me if it's true of the NHL, is the ability to stream your local game on your MLB app or on the website, even if you subscribe to cable. Whereas you can get every primetime television show through Hulu Plus or through some kind of login and authentication, but you can't get your local sports games.
Right, and it is very, it's messed up, and it's a couple paradigms, and I've spent a lot of time trying to chase down. They're building this on the old paradigm, and people might remember this from football more than anything else. That if a game isn't sold out, it's not going to be televised, right? That's something that I think
it's the Raiders, right? Yeah.
Right, it was just eliminated this year finally because what would happen is the local businesses, the bars would end up buying the extra tickets because to have the game televised is money for the entire city. So. But the idea is if we televise your local games to you, then you won't go and you won't buy tickets, right? So that's where this whole thing started back when I was a kid in the 70s. And as you said, over time, as we remember, home games weren't televised at all for a long time because of this reason. There were, in Chicago, they didn't even televise the Blackhawks games home until about 4 years ago, which was the last team to do that. But now everyone's used to all home games, all away games being televised, and so what happens is you buy a subscription and you can't see your local team on. You can see anyone else's team. If you live in a city away like you live, you're still a St. Louis Blues fan and you live in Los Angeles. This is perfect for you because you don't have to worry about you're not going to be blacked out from the St. Louis Blues. You can't get to a Blues game. They don't care. They assume that, right? But anyone else, and it is ridiculous. It doesn't matter if you have a subscription or not. Or if you have cable, or if you subscribe to the local channel that televises, like Comcast Sportsnet televises the Flyers games here in Philadelphia. If I have Comcast Sportsnet, I can watch it, but if I don't, I can't see it on NHL Game Center, unless of course I do some kind of VPN, which is what everyone ends up doing anyway.
Right. Exactly, because there really is no region on the internet. They're guessing based on your IP address, which is easily spoofed if you know what you're doing. They're just banking on the fact that the majority of sports fans and the majority of people don't know how to spoof an IP address using VPN, and so it's not really a bother for them to geofence like this. However, the NBA has done a deal with Turner where you can watch your NBA local games if you log in with your cable subscription that has Turner's networks and you watch it on the Turner app. I don't think you can get it on the NBA app, right?
Right, that's the NBA, and the NHL has done a similar thing with Rogers in Canada, where you can, and on Canada, in Rogers in Canada, you actually can do it on the NHL app. So that's the difference. And yeah, if you subscribe to Rogers, who this year got the NHL package away from TSN, they bid
$5.2 billion.
Yeah, a crazy thing, and along with Hockey Night in Canada, which is a huge thing, and all this stuff. So they got that contract, and so Rogers decided that if you're a Rogers subscriber, you can see your local games at home. Like they're giving us a treat, which they were giving us a treat that we would never could have possibly imagined in our wildest dreams, right? But it is something that we should be able to do anyway. But yes, now you can actually see your home game. So when this happened, I went to work at the NHL. Like I said, okay, this is possible, obviously. This is not something that's a bigger rule. The NHL is allowing this to happen in one place. So is this just a matter of, Comcast doing the same thing or Verizon, Fios doing the same thing? And I was told that the Canadian rules are slightly different. And I was when I asked to expand upon that, no one could tell me exactly what that was. So
You're like, yeah, I know they're different. They allow you to watch your in-market games. That's right. What's different.
They're better. You mean? They're better. So yeah, I said, could Comcast do the same thing? And they said no. Comcast, and I said they couldn't, and they said no. So, and then I talked to somebody else who wasn't sure. What you find is these decisions are being made, and not just the NHL, but I found this with the NFL too, are being made by people, at one level who are making these as business deals with companies, right? And the people who are then answering questions are like us. They think, why wouldn't you be able to do that? And they don't really see the problem with it, and they don't necessarily know the reasons behind it. Obviously, it's money. It's obviously money. And I said that to them. I said, it's obviously money. So if Comcast said, okay, well, we're willing to let people watch their home games, well, maybe, but, it has to do – but Comcast could do that, but Verizon couldn't because NBC has the national contract for the NHL and Verizon doesn't, and NBC is owned by Comcast. So there's all this it's a lot of craziness involved.
Yeah. There was a Forbes article recently within the last couple of days talking about Major League Baseball, and they're trying to get this to work. And the standoff is that networks like Fox and Comcast say, sure, we'll let people watch their in-market local games online as long as they log in through us. That's all we care about. And Major League Baseball is saying, no, we don't want that kind of weird thing where you pay for a package and you log in with your MLB login, but then to watch your local game, you have to log in with somebody else's login. Like, that's not a good customer experience. Well, it turns out, at least according to Forbes, what they're really fighting about is customer data. For one thing, Major League Baseball never sells your data to anyone, and they're very protective of that. They say when you log in with us, your data is used simply to verify that you're the subscriber. And of course, Fox and Comcast, they want to use that for promotional purposes. And so it comes down to you being the product is what is preventing you from being sold a product, or in this case, not even really sold, but having a product that you're already paying for delivered in a more convenient manner.
Yes, and it makes a lot of sense based on a couple of things that I was told. Another question I asked them is, how come when I don't know if this is true on MLB, because I don't watch too much MLB online, but in the NHL, sometimes a commercial will just be blacked out. We've seen it with Sling TV on ESPN, where we're at a commercial break. You just see this thing that comes up and says, commercial break. And you ask yourself, why wouldn't they be playing that commercial? Why am I just watching a commercial break? I actually went to the NHL and said, when you have those commercial breaks, could I just buy that spot and say, this commercial break is brought to you by Hockeybuzz, just so someone looks at something besides something, I thought there's an opportunity to buy some commercial spots. And obviously there, it's about data again, because it's about advertising to the point where right now they want the advertisers to pay more for their television plus their online, right? That's what they're trying to get.
Yeah.
When in reality, you see why they'd want to do that, but it really, they're lowering the entire value of the thing by having these blank spots of nothingness in the middle of broadcasts.
And when you look at that $5.2 billion that Rogers paid for a 12-year contract on this, and granted, these new contracts are accounting for digital rights in a much more advanced way than the contracts were 10 years ago. But how long can these contracts remain enforceable? I mean, we are already at a point right now where people are like, I really expect to be able to watch this on my computer, on my phone. Why can't I? And these
Right.
deals seem to have locked this up.
Oh yeah, and they end up being bad marketing ideas, because bad PR ideas, because people get mad at the companies. You know, and Sportsnet's trying their best, but you know, the CBC, you know, had Hockey Night in Canada, and a lot of people in our chat room are talking about how they're upset about that, you know, right now, because it's the CBC it was such a part of life, CBC having Hockey Night in Canada. So yeah, it's a problem, and it, you know, the other thing about this too, and having talked to people, you know, on both leagues, I got the impression that they believe these are their final television contracts they're ever going to do. That part of this might be they're saving that part of it until they do it by themselves. And then when they release it by themselves without any television contract, and you only watch sports on the NHL network on cable or the NHL app, and they control the entire thing from beginning to end, which is what they'd like to do. When the money's there for the advertising, when the advertising money goes up, they'll do that because they don't need a middleman anymore. And maybe that's when you get to see your local home games. Maybe that's the prize. And I got a little bit of that impression a couple times that they were thinking that. But you know, that is at least Comcast's deal is still another 7 years. NBC's deal in the U.S. is still another 7 years. ESPN just did a deal to cover the World Cup of hockey. So in 4 years, so that's the way to go. And I don't think that people are going to be patient. I think 10 years from now, that's going to sound ridiculous. Like that has to happen in 4 years or 5 years.
I have a feeling we might see some of these contracts get disrupted, renegotiated,
Yep.
because you're right. Essentially, what these sports leagues are doing is saying we really control all this video. We control our own networks. Every sport has its own network. We're just waiting until we're confident that we can make $5.2 billion over 10 years ourselves, before we take control of it. And that day may come faster than expected.
Oh, it's coming fast, and it also ties into another big problem in my world, which is that sports teams are covering themselves, right? So, and the PhiladelphiaFlyers.com will have a breaking trade, can have it way before I can, because I'm a reporter. That's the team covering themselves. If they start broadcasting themselves, then it takes it to another level of you're really not going to get any impartiality at all in this whole process. And that's going to help, and it's going to hurt the product inevitably and hurt them inevitably very few people realize that. Very few people realize they really think. I mean, I recently got in a fight with a hockey writer who said I broke a story, and he works for the team. And I said, well, yeah, you were the first to put it out, but if you break a story, it's actually a press release. And he's like, no, I broke the story. And I'm like, no, it's a press release. You work for the team, you put it out there. That's a press release. That's not breaking a trade. That's a press. And this is a big fight he had back and forth with me. And I said, it doesn't count when you work within, you can have everything first. So you're releasing a press release. So these are the fine lines that are being kind of needled around right now. And the one other thing that I wanted to say about the Samsung thing, which is really interesting, because I have a Kindle. I like my Kindle Fire a lot as a tablet, and the NHL app is not on. The NHL app is not on Kindle. It's on the Kindle Fire. It's not in the Amazon App Store.
And there's no reason for that, because the NHL app is available in the Google Play Store, so it would be fairly simple to bring it over to Amazon.
But remember when Hulu first came out, and the Hulu wasn't available in the Windows Store for Windows? There was all sorts of things that you didn't. This is sort of
you still can't get Amazon Video on the Google Play Store.
Right. And this is the issue. So I said, well, why aren't you? And they said, oh, we are. And I said, no, you're not. And literally people I talked to didn't realize they weren't. And that's what I mean about the disconnect that goes on here. And I'm sure that's about money again, and I'm sure there's ways around it that I could get around, but it's one of those things most people aren't going to spend the time. So then I said, okay, I have this big 12-inch Samsung tablet, right? I have this giant Samsung tablet, 12-inch, beautiful tablet, really great, nice screen. And it's not one of the Samsung devices that get this special feature. It's not a phone. It's because the things they were saying, were phones. And so I didn't get, because I don't have a Samsung phone, so I looked on here, and they said, well, that doesn't make sense. So they said, we'll try to fix that. So there's a lot of confusion still among this stuff, and really they're confusing themselves by trying to get extra money. They're making the issue much harder than it has to be.
Yeah, they're cutting it too fine, essentially.
Oh yes.
Which leads us to our pick of the day, folks. If you're tired of playing in that arena, play in the independently made available for anybody arena. Although apparently not to Google Play people. We got a pick from Stan Cook. It says, you guys need to check out Bosch on Amazon Prime, one of the pilots from last year that made it, a really good detective series. And again, Amazon coming with a lot of these. Mozart in the Jungle, of course, Transparent, I was a big fan of. Man in the High Castle got green-lighted, so we'll be seeing that sometime, hopefully before the end of this year. They are giving Netflix a run for their money. Netflix with Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, with House of Cards out right now. Very, definitely HBO/broadcast network level TV shows in both cases. There's lots of opportunities, and I don't know, man. With esports and things like UFC and WWE that are more digital friendly, sports leagues, they've got a big advance, but they better watch out or they could get disrupted the same way.
Oh, for sure. It's a fascinating time for original content. It really is.
Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Yesterday, Patrick Beja and I were talking about a sort of related topic, advertising-supported journalism, specifically tech journalism, in the light of the shutdown of GigaOM. Got a lot of great responses for that. Thanks to everybody who wrote in. Just a sampling of what we got. Derek Chen, who works in the advertising agency, we've had him on the show before, wrote in and said, hey, advertising's latest fad is programmatic buying, shifting from working directly with sites to automated processes that focus on select inventory or targeted audiences and prevents sites from selling traditional buys where a lump sum buys a certain amount of media over time. This is particularly challenging for smaller and medium independent sites who can't provide the reach and scale advertisers need. With that, to Tom's point, we'll most likely see more sites fold or merge into larger groups. So the discussion yesterday, it's not just competition within the category. We're seeing fundamental shifts in the way the web is used and sold. He says, is it too early to say Web 3.0? Might be late. Might be Web 4.0.
Yeah, I think we're already there, and I can really relate to this because we run a content site, with advertisers. And although I'm not the advertising guy, we have a CEO, a COO, and a CFO. But we talk about this all the time. And yeah, the way it's being sold for a medium-sized site like mine, it's really tricky. You have to basically merge together into larger groups, or else you won't be able to get anything. So it's tricky.
Greg Lane adds, I think there's another reason why display advertising on the web isn't growing fast enough. Paid content. This has become so widespread that advertisers expect to be able to buy editorial and almost seem to be puzzled when they find out they can't. Have you run into that, Ek?
Not as much because we don't. We mainly are covering teams, so they wouldn't advertise or try.
The teams won't pay you. You're like,
no, unfortunately not. But yeah, you can see where it would obviously. I mean, some sites do it very well, the paid content, and I'm not opposed to it. I understand why it needs to be done, and I know it's a big ethical issue, and I've had this debate with journalistic friends for sure.
And then finally, Alex adds, there is and always will be a limited supply of good talent, in this case quality journalists who know what they're doing and provide competing news and content that people want to read, which will be monetarily more valuable. The other limitation is audience attention. In short, only the cream will rise to the top. This can be applied anywhere: news, podcasting, clothing, retail, dog walkers, you name it. So that's the optimistic attitude, is like, hey, the pot can't go too low and wide because there just aren't enough people who can do it well.
No, that's very true, and there is definitely an aspect to that, and I've run into it too. We do content deals sometimes with Fox, and we've talked to USA Today where they want to share content or things like that, and it is amazing when you talk how little content there is out there. Original content is king right now for sure, and yeah, there's no question that's limited by the amount of talented people that are out there, and also by the fact that some of the old school journalists are leaving and retiring, and there's a whole new ethics. I mean, the ethics of the blog could be a book that someone needs to write right now, I think, because there's a whole new level. I mean, the blue book that I read in college for journalism, it just doesn't exist, and it's completely different now. So, but there are still ethics, and it's sort of forming itself. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, and there's just a certain talent for being able to report. This is not what I do, right? Going out and getting a story like what you do, where you're calling sources, cultivating sources, looking for angles, looking for information. That's something that part doesn't really change. I mean, the ways you can collect it changes, but that essential cultivation skill is the same over time.
It's really exciting. It's a really exciting part of my job, and it's really about and for all the people like that, it's about personality still. It's about just phone calls. It's about realizing everyone has an agenda that you talk to. Everybody has an agenda, and everybody, everybody will only talk to you because they think you know something that they don't know, and you're trying to find something that they know that you don't know, and that's the only reason you get people to tell you anything ever, because there's no reason they would otherwise. So it is a fun, exciting game, and it's really about trust and personalities. And I had some interesting. We just had the NHL trade deadline pass. And there were some interesting situations where I got a trade given to me off the record, and you hate that, and you're sitting there, and I'm I can't talk about it until this time, and the trade's going to get broken before I can talk about it. But very few journalists these days will live up to an off the record statement. So that's the kind of thing it's important and interesting to watch who does and who doesn't, because very, very few do, and that's why I think it gets harder and harder.
Big Jim, please stop typing in all caps in the chat room, but he has a correction. When I say you can't get Amazon Video, that applies to tablets. Amazon Video is available for Android phone, and he says there's a workaround, actually. If you flip a setting, you can fool the tablet, apparently. You don't download the Amazon app from Play, you have to sideload it, he says.
That's cool, but if it can't be explained easily to your mom over the phone, it's not good. The workarounds like that, just to me.
But he's right. You can do it directly for phones. So if you have like a Note 4, nice big screen, you can get Amazon Video that way. I'm totally mistaken about that. Alan says, your story about the CIA creating a hacked version of Xcode in OS X reminds me of a really old story about Ken Thompson hacking the login program to capture passwords. Then he hacked the C compiler to insert the login hack when compiling the login program. Then he hacked the C compiler to insert the C compiler hack when compiling the C compiler. He then got people to use this compromised C compiler, and once they do, they couldn't get rid of the hack. If they recompiled login, or even the C compiler itself, the system was still compromised, and it completely passed source code inspection. It would require inspecting the output of the C compiler to realize it was actually up to something. Of course, this was back in the 80s, but that is a legendary hack that Ken Thompson did that way. I appreciated Alan reminding us of it. Really cool stuff. Couple more here. Pete says he's from Moody Wollongong in Australia. Just an additional thought about the new MacBook. While one port is cute, and yes, the whole Wi-Fi Bluetooth expansion is upon us, I think people forget that every device that is wirelessly connected has to have its own power source. That's a good one, Ek. It's one thing to say, I can daisy chain all this stuff, but it's not going to be powered necessarily, and especially what Apple was saying is do it wirelessly, then it's definitely not going to be powered.
It's not. And I think this new MacBook is awesome, but I do agree that I've heard people say this before. Anyone who's watching a show like this it's not gonna work for them, probably, because they have so many peripherals and they have different things going on. But for the average person, it's going to be a cool book. It's going to be a cool MacBook. But yeah, he's dead on right. I mean, there's no way we could do a show like this from it when you have all different kinds of things. I've got a little mixer plugged into a USB. That's just crazy. Yeah,
you'd have to have a powered USB hub.
Right.
And you'd have to fill up that USB-C port with it. So finally, Lemon from the chat room pointed out that back in the Nintendo Famicom days, when the Nintendo Famicom came to China, it was 500 yuan. Now, keep in mind that the average successful doctor at the time was making no more than 200 yuan a month, yet people were still buying them like hotcakes. 2 years later, the Chinese market caught on and started making their version of the system, and they dropped the price of the Famicom to less than 100 yuan. As they say, history repeats itself. Now the consoles are coming back to China. Lemon says, I get the feeling there is going to be a Chinese-friendly version of that is not produced by Sony, but will work with PS4 games. And who knows, it may work with PS3 games. I think this is a really interesting question, which is, okay, with consoles being essentially outlawed in China for the past couple of decades, we don't really know what the state of that marketplace of gray market or imitation items is going to be with these consoles. Now, we could look at the Xbox. I haven't heard of any reports of major successes for Xbox imitators, but I don't know. So it's an interesting thought.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating to see in many ways. And you imagine, even though they've been outlawed, that they still exist among hardcore people. But when a lot of these consoles are not just being sold as gaming devices now, right? They're being sold as entertainment devices. So that's, it's a whole different ballgame.
And that is the news. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Ek. Folks, if you're into hockey and you're not going to hockeybuzz.com, you need to, because you are on top of stuff over there. What's been happening there lately?
We just got through the trade deadline. Thank heavens. That was the hardest thing. It was crazy. 24 hours of trades, and yeah, so we're in easy. We're coasting home now, free. We're just waiting for the playoffs to start.
Excellent. So check it out. Follow Ek on Twitter at EKLUND. Right, just Eklund.
That's it.
All right. Thanks to our patrons, 4,854 people get some value out of the show and are willing to give us some value back. Won't you join them if you don't already? Whether you just want to give us 5 cents a show, $1 a month on patreon.com/acedetect, you want to kick us a couple bitcoins or something through PayPal, or just tell folks about the show. We appreciate that if you're getting something out of the show and you want to kick us something back, it helps us out. dailytechnewsshow.com/support for all the ways to do that. And we announced it yesterday, but we've already given away 60% of the tickets to our Buzz Out Loud 10-year reunion. If you remember Buzz Out Loud from back in the CNET days, myself, Molly Wood, Veronica Belmont, Jason Howe, Rafe Needleman, Natalie Morris via Skype are all getting together March 29th. If you're in the Bay Area, we're going to do it on Sunday, March 29th at 12:30 Pacific at the Hack 5 warehouse. And tickets are available at bit.ly/BOL reunion. It's capital BOL, lowercase reunion. They're free tickets. We're just having people over. If you don't live in the Bay Area and you want to attend online, don't even need a ticket. The event will stream live on Alpha Geek Radio and on YouTube. So it's going to be fun, man. I know you were an old Buzztown member, right?
Yeah, big time, big time. If it wasn't for Buzz Out Loud, I wouldn't be here today. I've told you that many times. This is absolutely the case. And oh man, if only if only the Sharks were playing in a hockey game at that point, I could come out there and
you can justify it. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are so yeah. If you're in that area and you're not going to that show, you're insane. You got to go to that. That's awesome.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live at tunein.alphageekradio.com, 4:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back with an early show, 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Eck, I was going to say, hold all those thoughts. TBD, okay. Email coming.
Nice.
And Tom turns red. Okay, so... all right, so...
What the puck is going on? Come on, that's a great title. What the puck is going on?
I love that.
I don't know. I saw somebody put that up there. I thought that was funny.
Oh, right. Shobha. Briefly confused. That's going to be the name of my LLC is Briefly Confused. That's a good LLC name.
That's definitely nice. I like that. Why not, you know? That totally justifies Briefly Confused. That ties together really nicely.
Confused LLC, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, IRS. I did this all wrong. I was briefly confused. I wonder if that exists. Titles.
What do you think? I'm going to come back on this. When I get more information, Tom, I'll definitely text you more, and we'll have a follow-up, because I'm not giving up on this story. I've got so many more people to talk to still.
Good, yeah, that'd be great. We could have you here, or even like we've talked about with Cord Killers.
Yeah, one or the other would be awesome. Once I really, because I am going to get to the bottom of it, and I'm going to go to New York at some point when it all gets crazy, and just say, hey, I'm in New York, let's do it.
If it's the last thing I ever do.
I know. I feel like I'm one of the few people who actually could do it because of because of the following I have and the knowledge I have about this kind of stuff. So I'm in a good spot for it. So I feel like this is my duty to do it. But of course, we all just use, we all just spoof our places and.
You mean take quick trips overseas?
Yeah, quick trips overseas and stuff like that. And that's what I've heard. At least people do that. And I've heard people that when they do that, they say that, you know, if you do that, that you can just spoof where you are and then turn that off when the whole thing starts and everything's clear as day and doesn't give you problems, is what I've heard. So
No, of course not. Sorry for that. I'm trying to troubleshoot something.
All the things are playing. All the things.
I don't know why that's doing that. Clipping there.
So I wanted to ask people in the chat room. My son had this idea. Can I give my idea, Tom?
Yes, if you want to. If you want,
Yeah, I wanna see what
I
they
bet
do.
you'll get some good suggestions.
No, anybody could definitely do it. This is his idea. He came home and he's like, you know what I want? He loves the idea of flying drones high. And
Although, Jenny, you started doing titles and you never finished.
I'm
Did we
sorry.
pick-
Oh yeah, I
Let's see that
never
first.
found one. I was looking for one that really floated me boat.
you're
NES
a pirate.
flicks. I know. NES flicks. I kind of like just for its. It's not that I would like it to be a hockey one.
What the puck is
Go with
going
What the
on?
Puck.
Yeah, just go with what the puck.
What the puck?
I mean, we can do that.
I think so. If you're okay with that.
Hour of Independence.
Done.
All right, here's my idea. TF Egon, who wants to say it? Okay, here's my idea. All right, so my son's idea actually. He wanted to fly. You know, you see those people take hot air balloons and they send them up in the air with a GoPro on it and they go up into the upper atmosphere and all that. So it's really cool. And you see the videos of them. Well, his idea was not to go to the upper atmosphere, but to take an old iPhone that we had that screen's all broken, put a SIM into it. Okay, put a current SIM into it. Attach that iPhone to a bunch of helium balloons. Start FaceTime with it. Get on our computer, and then set the balloon into the sky. And watch it as it goes on the video of FaceTiming it. It's FaceTiming the thing as it floats over the neighborhood, and
Oh,
who
wow.
knows where to. And of course, once it eventually crashes, we can find it with Find My iPhone. That was his theory. We can use Find My iPhone.
That's amazing. That would be such a fun science project.
I mean,
it would inevitably land in the backyard of naturalists or naturists.
Right.
Like that would be your only problem, but otherwise I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, the puck stops here is a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, the puck stops here.
I think so. I think this would be pretty cool, right? I mean, it's not that hard to do. FaceTime, I think, would work pretty well. I mean, we have good LTE around here, and it's not going to go so high that we're going to be out of range. I wouldn't think, because even on airplanes, you start, sometimes you leave your phone on and you see it comes. You get, when you get a couple 1,000 feet or whatever, it's not going to go that high. And I don't think it would take that many balloons to lift an iPhone. I wouldn't do just your standard Mylar balloons.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should try it.
Sounds like a summer project.
Yeah, I mean, it's so simple to do, and of course you would lose the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Big Jim says they thinks Google did some of that stuff, the Project Loom stuff, maybe. But the video would just be right there. So all I would have to do is I could record it. I could even do it with Meerkat. Tom suggested, which is hilarious.
That would be great.
Yeah, and then go from launch all the way up on a Meerkat stream, right?
On a Meerkat stream, which is even better. That would be cool. Project Loon. I mean, it's so cheap. It would be so cheap to do, and it's kind of like the iPad. We wouldn't care if we destroyed it. It's an iPhone. We wouldn't care if we destroyed it. So I don't know.
It's not like it's an Android device.
Right, of course. I don't know if it's legal. I mean, I don't know if that's the only thing I thought about. Would someone actually come? Because I know you can't just launch. Is it technically a drone? I don't know if it's a drone.
No, it's not. It's not like a model airplane or a quadcopter. But I bet you there. Like I was saying before, there are so many people who do this sort of thing. I bet you can find out what the restrictions and legalities are pretty easy.
Yeah. That's what I would say. And of course, if we didn't look there, Tom, we could always say we didn't know. If we didn't try to find out what the legal
but at the same time, you don't want to don't want to get sucked into a jet engine by mistake or something.
Well, that's
like that.
true. We're not on a flight path or anything. I thought about that. That would be true. We're really far from any airport.
That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the screen's broken, so I don't care about the thing. But I think it would just be interesting it would be fun to sit there and watch the thing from your living room on your computer, because you can FaceTime on your computer, and we could record that stream. You know, you have the programs that can record that. You can record whatever's on your screen. So that's what. All right, if I give it a shot, I will definitely. I will let you guys know. I'll let Tom know that we're going to do it, and we'll do a time or something.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I want to see what you guys end up doing.
Yeah, maybe we have to do like some
Live stream it.
DTNS balloons and Hockeybuzz balloons. We send up into the sky and look over the Montgomeryville Mall, which is right near me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, the Montgomeryville Mall has long been noted for its need of in-the-air coverage.
Oh yes, for sure. I'm thinking just regular balloons. Someone asked that. I mean, I don't really. I think a big, because remember when you were kids and you would have, like, our church youth group used to you would tie your name to a balloon and send it off into the sky, and whoever was furthest away, you get a prize. You know, that's what I'm thinking, more like along those lines. Seems simple enough
Cuba.
to do.
Cuba.
Right, Cuba.
My show notes are going to be delayed because I'm going to go to lunch, but they will be there. So for all those fans of show notes, don't worry, they'll be there. The other thing I was going to say was, did you see? Speaking of Cuba, did you see Conan Goes to Cuba?
No.
I saw a little bit of it
loved
on
it.
Sling TV. I happened to notice, because it's easier to see that things are on, that it was Conan in Cuba. So I watched, I don't know, not very much, like 10 minutes of it.
I thought it was brilliant. It was just like, it was just great. What a bold, awesome, funny thing to go do.
Yeah, I really respect him a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I am out of the post.
All right.
I think I haven't messed it up. Apologies
am
for the
going
clipping.
to
I'm going to try to
lunch.
track that down. Oh, I can check in for my flight. What the what?
What the what?
Yes. So
Okay, I have to
once
remember
again,
So
anybody
9.
watching live or anybody watching this later, 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. It's an early show, so I can fly out to Austin, and then Friday, I believe we'll have Brian Brushwood on. Is that confirmed yet? Or he will be. He'll be sitting next to me. I'll make him be on.
I didn't even ask him because I figured
We should probably
he'll be
ask him,
next
but
to you.
he'll probably be on,
All
along
right,
with
I
Derek
will
Kitchen
write
and
him an
Lundberg.
email to ask him. Okay.
All right, we'll see you later, everybody.
Oh.
If I can find the place to stop the broadcast there.